we're rolling. A little bit brighter this time, but definitely not super better video quality. Working on it. But yeah, I thought I would just make a video since it's been about a week since I started doing my, I guess, health journey. I don't really want to call it like a weight loss journey. It's more like a health or a fitness, a well-being journey. Um, because like I was saying before, in my last video, it was like I the number on the scale isn't the only thing that I'm working towards. I want to be able to accomplish certain goals, and I want to be able to do certain things. So I thought I would do like a 1 week check-in just to kind of see where we are with that. Um, so yeah, my Caribou water bottle. um, so it's been a really good week actually, and I know. So it's interesting to look at some other people's journeys and kind of see that like the first week is either the best or the worst. It seems like it's either like just the worst struggle ever, because people are trying, they go like really hardcore and try to break all of their habits at once, and so that first week they're just miserable, or their first week they're really committed and they're really flying high, and everything seems great because they're trying all these new things, and you get like that big like dopamine hit and all that kind of stuff of like you're going to the gym again and you're making these positive changes and blah blah blah. And then after about week 2 or 3 they kind of start to crash, um, and so I'm kind of hoping to mitigate that. um, Obviously, like, I'm going into my second week, I'm still feeling pretty good about things. This first week for me was really, really good. I, well, let me kind of back up a little bit. So, my intention here is not to like hit everything really hard all at once, because I've definitely done things like that in the past and it's been a disaster. Um, I think it's because I always bite off more than I can choose. Like I want to get back to the health that I was at before, and that was when I was like in wrestling and exercising all the time. And so I'm like, well, I'll just do what I did in wrestling. And it's like, it's different though when you're on your own and you have an entire team. It's different when you're on your own versus when you're on a team where you have to show up and push hard and you all push each other to do better. So at this point, I am mostly on my own, but I do have support from like family and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I work out with my brother sometimes. Um, so yeah, I'm actually gonna go work out with him later. But otherwise, I'm mostly trying to do little things, set little goals, and change little things incrementally, so that it's easier to maintain. It's a lot easier to, do something when you do. I'm trying to remember. Sorry, I cut myself off mid sentence. It's a lot easier to do things when you set low goals. Um, I'm trying to remember, there was a video I watched, and it was actually about reading, and how to read more in a year. Um, and if I remember the video, I'll post it in my description. Um, but part of the video, it's a long video that covers a lot of topics, but one of the things that the guy says in there is he references someone else who says you take the path, essentially a path of least resistance. Like you set the lowest possible standard for yourself so that it's like, well, I can do this. Like it's kind of dumb if I don't do it. Like it's such a small thing. So it's like if you want to read more, instead of being like, well, I'm gonna, go from reading one book a year to 100 books a year. Well, instead of like being like I have to read, like one book every day, you say like I'm just gonna read a page. I'm just gonna read one page every day, and then you're like, well, how long does it really take to read a page? Like a couple minutes. it kind of feels dumb not to do it then, right? And so that's kind of how I've been approaching this, of like, I don't want to start working out and push myself so hard that I hurt myself, or push myself so hard that it becomes impossible to maintain, especially considering that I do work such long days on the days that I work. So, to go in, let's say that I work at 7 a.m. and I work at 12, so I work from 7 to 7. Okay, now that I get home at 7 p.m., do I really want to go and hit the gym for another 3 hours? And now, like, I'm out until at least 10 o'clock, and then I still have to eat dinner and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, well, let's start with something reasonable. Let's start with something small. Let's start with what we know we can manage. Can we just do something physical on top of whatever we're doing? Whether that's physical therapy exercises, whether that's, watching doing 10 minutes of a Richard Simmons video, whether that's, doing some wall push-ups while dinner's heating up, like, let's do just something every day. And it's been really good. And I think when you get into something and you enjoy it, you realize you start doing it more than what you were doing before. Like, that kind of goes without saying, but like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, when you realize you enjoy it, you just naturally want to go and do it for longer. So instead of just being like, oh God, I have to go to the gym and I have to do this, it's like, well, do something that you enjoy. So like yesterday, I keep getting texts from random friends right when I go to film. um, Yesterday, I just decided that I was going to go for a walk. Yesterday, I had the day off, and I had my physical therapy in the morning. And normally, when I finish physical therapy, I don't want to do anything else. But yesterday, I was like, no, because I had physical therapy in the morning, and I didn't want to just spend the rest of the day like sitting in the house. It was a beautiful day. I didn't want to spend the rest of the day just sitting in my home doing nothing. So I was like, well, I'll just go for a walk. And I just started walking. And I wound up walking about 4 miles all told. Now, that wasn't like power walking or anything. And I wasn't like, hoofing it. I wasn't like sweating and having, like a heart. Like, I wasn't like sweating and suffering when I came home. But it was 4 miles. And I didn't even realize that it was 4 miles. I was walking, and it's interesting when you kind of just start walking what you see around. There are shops and stuff that I pass all the time that I like, you never see it when you're going by in a car because you go by so quickly. But when you're just walking around, you're like, oh, hey, this is kind of cool. I wonder what that is. Oh, I wonder what that is. And pulling out your phone and being like, what is this called? Or, like, what does this place do? Because some of those places, it's like they've got a random name, but you don't really know what they do. So that was just kind of cool to just like go out and walk and kind of see some of that. Yeah. And so then, I came home and I was tired, so took a little nap and all that, but I still felt really accomplished and I felt really good. And as a side effect to that, I'm losing weight. Like this last week, I lost just over 2.5 pounds, which may not seem like a lot, but if that's consistent, if you lose 2.5 pounds every week, or roughly 4 weeks in a month, you're going to lose 10 pounds in a month. That may not seem like much, but that's a lot in a year, Yeah. So I was kind of thinking about this last night, of how I was talking about before with wanting to set goals for myself and having physical goal points that I'm trying to reach. So like being able to do a push-up, being able to do a pull-up, being able to run a mile. And while I'm still fairly certain that I won't be able to run a mile anytime like really soon, like I'm not going to be able to go out tomorrow and run a mile. Pardon me. That I'm not going to be able to go out tomorrow and run a mile with any level of ease. The fact that I was able to go out and walk 4 miles is still really good, you know, and that's something to build off of. And when you think about it, if you have like physical goals that you're trying to reach outside of just like a weight loss, so if you have something that like you want to achieve, like a very specific, you know, let's say that you're trying to work towards a specific body type, or you're like me and you're trying to work towards a specific like achievement of, you know, being able to do a push-up, being able to run a mile, being able to, you know, XYZ. The weight loss is going to happen still because you're going to be making changes in your life. You're going to be making health and lifestyle changes in order to achieve those goals. And so the weight loss is a side effect of that. And I think for me, that's the big thing, because if you just focus on the number on the scale, you can do some really unhealthy habits to lose weight, but it's not any better for you. I don't know if that really makes sense. I hope it does. But basically, like, there are a lot of ways that you can lose weight, and not all of them are healthy. And so if instead you work towards, I say you, I'm really meaning myself. If instead I work towards goals that are more lifestyle change, more habit change, than just being like, well, I just want to lose a certain number on the scale, that weight is still going to come off. And then I'm also not stressing about like, oh no, you know, like if I have a period where maybe I slip up, or maybe I, you know, make a mistake, or you know, I'm not working out as hard as I should be, or maybe I take a rest day and it turns into a rest week. It's not as big a thing. Basically, I won't beat myself up as much over not reaching that number on that scale within a certain time frame, if that makes sense. Sorry, I'm just kind of thinking while I'm talking here. I'm not super good at filming myself and all this sort of thing. Also, if I'm sniffling, it's because allergies. This year has been ridiculous for my allergies. I feel like a lot of times when I've tried to lose weight in the past, I would have a certain number in mind, and I would try and work towards those. And the way that I would work towards those would be like really restricting what I eat and really hitting hard with working out. And then I would have, you know, like something happen where I would work too hard and I would push my body too far. And I would be so sore that I couldn't work out the next day. Well, and then because of that, I would feel, you know, like the next day, or even the next 2 or 3 days, you know, and I would feel so guilty that then I would be like, well, let's just throw the whole thing out the window then. Like I've fallen off, I've ruined it. Let's just throw the whole thing out the window. And then I would, you know, like fall off with the eating then as well, and I would eat all the, you know, junk food that I had, you know, tried to purge out of my house, you know, or I would be out with friends, and instead of getting like the healthiest option that I could, I'd get something really unhealthy or something outside of my like super restrictive eating. And then I would feel guilty about eating those things, and I would kind of the same thing of just like, well, I messed up this one thing, so just throw the whole thing out the window. And then you actually end up gaining more weight back because it's kind of a shock to the system. And you're basically binging on all of these things that you had not allowed yourself to have. And I think maybe that's kind of a downfall that some people fall into a lot. I don't know. But from a couple of the people that I've spoken to, that seems to be a pretty common emotional thing. And I think that's why I'm trying so hard to look at it more as like changing habits and changing lifestyles than being like, I'm going to restrict my eating and I'm going to work out really hard and it's a diet, it's a whatever. Because if it's a diet, it's not a lifestyle. A diet implies that it's for a season. You know, you diet to get down to, a specific dress size or jean size or bathing suit season. You know, like you diet to restrict your food habits down to something very specific for a specific time, and then you leave the diet. So in my mind, at least, I don't know if it's this way for anybody else, but in my mind, at least, when you refer to it as a diet or a diet plan, the implication is that it's only temporary and that it's somehow you're a bad person if you can't do it. Like there's this weird moral attachment to food that we make. And I don't know if this is just like a specifically American kind of ideal, but there seems to be like this moral attachment to food of like, if you eat ice cream is bad. If you eat cheese is bad. If you eat bread and pasta are bad. But, you know, like tofu and green beans and plain chicken is good. When in reality, it's food. Food doesn't have a moral alignment. We're not playing D&D. The food is not going to get up and attack you. It doesn't have, a moral alignment in its system here. But if you think of it more, let me back up. One of my friends is a nutritionist, and one of the things that she had talked to me about back when I was trying to lose weight about 2 years ago was that, like, food has no moral value. And you don't have moral value because of the food that you eat. Food is neither good nor bad, and you are not good or bad because you choose to eat certain foods. There's a difference between having healthy eating styles and having unhealthy eating styles, but that doesn't make you a bad person if you have an unhealthy eating style. And different people are going to need different things. And so to kind of put it in perspective, if all you're doing is eating, if you're the kind of person who has a very sedentary lifestyle and you're eating, high fat, high carbohydrate meals, yes, you're going to gain weight. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. That just means you have to adjust your eating style or your activity level or both. If you're a very active person, you might be able to get away with eating more of those high fat, high carbohydrate foods. You're also still going to need a lot of protein though. And you might be able to maintain your weight better eating more of those fatty foods because you have a very active lifestyle, and that's okay. And I mean, like, obviously genetics and metabolism and all that kind of stuff plays into it. There are a lot of factors into losing weight, having a healthy lifestyle, and all that kind of stuff. But you really have to try and taper your activity and your food into what you're trying to do. I don't think, for me, just trying to restrict eating and just trying to, work out hard is going to be sustainable long term, because I've tried it in the past and it doesn't work. So I think the way that I'm trying to go about it is just to build the habit. Do something active every day. And I think this week I'm going to try and build a little bit more on it. I have a weakness for soda. I actually have Coke sitting right here. like I said before, I have a sweet tooth. And so it's like, week one, build the habit of just doing something active every day. And I think this upcoming week, I'm going to try and cut back on some of those sodas. I'm not saying I'm not allowed to have it, because I think that's, like I was saying, its own kind of road to destruction. If I say, like I can't have it, and then I go hang out with friends, or one day I decide that I'm going to treat myself to a soda, and then suddenly I feel guilty and I just kind of throw the whole thing out the window. No, that's not a good way to do things. So I think more being like, hey, let's just have less of this. You can still have it, just have less of it. Um, I think that's going to be the next part for this upcoming week, is just kind of looking at my eating habits and seeing where I can make some adjustments. Cut back on some sodas, maybe try and make some more meals at home, and, not eat out as much. We'll see what happens. We'll see what goes from there. I'm definitely going to try and be a little more active this week than I was last week. So instead of just being like, let's just do something, I'll try and set a timer and be like, let's do for, like at least 15 minutes. And we'll just maintain that for the upcoming week. Like I said, I'm going to go do a workout later today with my brother. So I'll probably be sore tomorrow. So tomorrow might be just another walk to try and get myself moving. But if it's 4 miles again, that's going to be about 2 hours. So, because when I just go for walks, I don't walk. Like if I'm just casually going for a walk, I don't walk super fast. Just kind of meander along. So, that might be the case for tomorrow, depending on what I have going on. Yeah. If you have anything to say about my opinions and all that kind of stuff, or I guess suggestions, I would really appreciate it. I love interaction. I love, if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can. But I don't know. I'm feeling really good about this week. And I'm feeling really good about the upcoming week. I think it feels weird, but I think the loss of 2.6 pounds, rather than it being some dramatic number, like, like dropping 10 pounds in the first week or whatever, is actually really encouraging to me, because I feel like that's the sign of something that's a little more sustainable than what I've had in the past. And so I don't know. I'm pleasantly optimistic for the future. And so we'll see what happens. But yeah. I'll see you when I see you. Take care, guys.